Hello, Mr. Berry's geometry class. I want to take you through the review for the practice final exam, just so you have some idea, something to study. Hopefully this will help you study. You could pause this and write things down as much as possible. This will probably be split up in 2 videos because it's going to be rather lengthy, and it takes me a long time to upload long videos. So let's get after it. Pause this as needed because I'm going to rip right through it. Find the length of the missing side. The triangle is not drawn to scale. Don't mind the SOHCAHTOA stuff. I was showing that to another student earlier for another question. So what we are going to be paying attention to is Pythagorean's theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. We have the shorter side coming off of a 90-degree angle being A, the longer side being B, and the hypotenuse, which is the side directly across from the 90-degree angle, being C. All right, so we know A, we know B, we need to know C. So we just square 5, square 12, this is where I'm getting those numbers, equals C squared. So the square root of 169 would be 13. So your first answer is going to be D, 13. Number 2, same thing. We don't know A this time though. So simply what I'm going to do is take 25 squared minus 24 squared, and I get 49. Square root of 49 is going to be 7. So the length of A would be 7. Number 3, a triangle has sides of lengths 18, 80, and 82. Is it a right triangle? Yes. Explain. Well, because if c squared is less than a squared plus b squared, it's acute. If c squared is greater than a squared plus b squared, it is obtuse. If c squared equals a squared plus b squared, it is right, and it equaled when you work those out. It comes up to 6,724 equaling 6,724. Number 4, write the tangent ratios for P and Q. So P, remember, so going back up here, tangent ratio, TOA, T-O-A, so T equals tangent of an angle equals the opposite over adjacent side. So if we're going for our angle of interest first to be P, opposite over adjacent, this would be hypotenuse, this is adjacent, this is next to the angle. So opposite over the opposite over adjacent is 15 over 20, and then for Q, opposite over adjacent would be 20 over 15, so that would be D. I wrote SOHCAHTOA over here too because you're going to be using that a lot. Refer back to that, please. Number 5, write the ratios for sine of A and cosine of A. Well, sine would be opposite over hypotenuse, and my angle of interest is A, so opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine of A is going to be adjacent over hypotenuse, so adjacent over hypotenuse, so 8 over 17 is the hypotenuse. So A would be the right answer for that. For number 6, use trigonometric ratio to find the value of x. Round your answers to the nearest tenth. And we are going to take the tangent of 20 equals 9 over x. All you're going to do here really is take 9 divided by a tangent of 20. Because what you're going to do is you're going to multiply both sides by x, and then you're going to get x by itself by dividing both sides by tangent of 20, so 9 divided by a tangent of 20 gives you 24.7, which would be D. Find the value of x, round to the nearest tenth, and we're taking the cosine of 28. Because, and we knew what to use because our angle of interest is here, and I know the adjacent, and I want to know the hypotenuse. So AH. The only one with AH in it is cosine, so that's how I knew I needed to do cosine. Cosine of 28 equals 10 over x. So basically what you have to do when your x is on the bottom like this, you just take this, what's on the top, and divide it by the cosine of 28, and that gives you 11.3. That gives you what x equals. Number 8. This is my angle of interest. I know the opposite, and I want to know the hypotenuse. So opposite hypotenuse is sine. The only one with OH in it is sine. So I'm going to take the sine of 23. That's going to equal 19 over x, opposite over hypotenuse. This time I'm going to take sine, or 19 divided by sine of 23. That will give me what it equals. Whenever your x is on the bottom, take what's on the top and divide it by your sine, cosine, or tangent. Whatever you're doing. That one ended up being A, 48.6. Number 9. A slide 4.1 meters long makes an angle of 35 degrees with the ground. To the nearest tenth of a meter, how far above the ground is the top of the slide? So we want to know this. So I know the 35 degrees, I want to know my opposite, and I know my hypotenuse. So in this instant, I don't know the opposite, but I do know the hypotenuse. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply both sides by 4.1 to get x by itself. So just take 4.1 times sine of 35 on your calculator, and you get 2.4 meters. Find the value of x, round to the nearest degree. If you don't know this, if you don't know the angle, and I have the adjacent, I have the hypotenuse. Adjacent hypotenuse is AH. The only thing with AH is CAH, C-A-H. So the adjacent over the hypotenuse is 10 over 11. I do that cosine -1 button. So it's this, whenever I'm looking for the angle. And then I just plug in 10 over 11, so 10 divided by 11, close the parentheses. And I get 24.6, and it rounds up to 25. The 6 makes the 4 go up to a 5. Number 11, find the value of x to the nearest degree. I'm looking for the tangent of x. And so I know I'm looking for tangent because I know the opposite and the adjacent. Opposite, adjacent, OA. The only thing with OA is TOA. Remember, so, ka, toa. That's how I remember it. And the O goes over the A. So the opposite goes over the adjacent. I do that tangent -1 thing that I just showed you with the cosine -1. Plug in 8 over 5, and I get 57.99, which rounds up to the nearest degree of 58. So B. This one you just kind of have to have the eye for it. We have this figure and this figure, and this is rotated and flipped. So EF is going to be RS. So that should be B. Which graph shows a triangle that's a reflection over the x-axis? X-axis is right here. Reflection over the x-axis would be D. Which of the figures are congruents? Congruent figures, we have BD and EF. So EF and BD. Okay. AC are similar. So you do see that as here, which are similar, AC. You know, I'm not real sure on this because, I mean, BD could be, but I'm not given any, like, ratios. I'm not given any measurements. EF, yeah, they're both right triangles, but this looks a little bit longer than what this, it doesn't seem like it would be a ratio that would be similar. So that's why I only chose A. I could be wrong on that. I could go with B and D, being that they're both, but I don't have measurements to show that there's the same correlation between the width and the length as here, width and length. You know, I'm not 100% sure. I need more information for that. 16. But these being cubes, I'm assuming. So there's a lot of assumptions in number 15. I don't like 15. They need numbers there to show us what we can really determine is similar. Find the area. The figure is not drawn to scale, so all we're going to do is take length times width, and you get 39.04. So that's going to be D. This is going to be the base times the height divided by 2, and so you get B for number 17. Ends up being 57. Number 18. I'm just taking half the base times the height, so 3.8 times 6 divided by 2, I get 11.4. Number 19, I take the measurement of the rectangle first, 13 times 9, that gives me 117. And then this right here is going to be 5, because if this was 13 and this is 8, that means this is 5. So 5 times 11, and half of that is going to be 27.5. So 117 plus 27.5 gives me that A, 144.5 centimeters squared. The area of a parallelogram is 280 and the height is 35. Find the corresponding base. So the base, B, times 35 equals, times the height, equals 280. I just take 280 divided by 35 and I get 8. Trapezoid, so I'm going to take the height times base 1 and base 2 divided by 2. And here I just wrote it, you know, I wanted to stop it right there, you know, so actually pay attention to this one. And when you do that, you get 70 inches squared. I'm going to stop it right there because I have a student come in. I am going to put this out there, and then after a while, a little later today, because I have a meeting, I'm going to put out a second video if you're watching this on Wednesday morning. If not, you'll see that they're back to back. So I'm going to stop it right there and look for the next video.